doing something fun today. Taking a field trip, and we're gonna do everyone's favorite thing. Fabric shop. This is so quintessential right now. White girl walks with her Starbucks into the Joann's. This is the apparel section, meaning we're gonna make something that we can wear today. I haven't made anything for myself in probably a year since the vows renewal last year. So, yeah, can you hear that? I haven't changed that playlist in 30 years. It's one of the things I like. I like it, everything. Just right. Yay, yay. Look at this. Okay, this is beautiful, but this brings up the first most important point of shopping, and we're gonna go over a couple, which is, I'm not shopping for that today. What is your project? What are you shopping for today? Everything looks beautiful. It always does. It's always this tantalizing. So we need to stay on project. What are we shopping for? What are we looking for? For me today, it's actually solids. I've got an idea in mind. I'm still kind of formulating it, but we'll sit down at the table later and talk about it. But I've got something in mind that's gonna require a solid black, a solid burgundy, and I think a solid wine, no, mustard color. Now, the thing is, they all need to be stretch, and we are not in the stretch section. I just walked in and gravitated and saw this pretty green and thought, maybe I'll make another project. Don't do that. You are here on a mission, and I believe in you. So, step number one, shop for your project. Let's keep going. See again. Look at this. Look at this. There should be like a little, I should wear like a little shock collar. We're looking for a black fabric today, a nice black knit. I'm looking for a tight weave, not like a sweater, which makes me to my next most important point. What season are you wearing this item in? It's okay if it's an all-season garment, but you need to know that out the gate. So for me, I'm looking for something that's in this transitional period. So fall, spring, warm enough, not too warm, so I'm not going full sweater, but I am going slightly heavier knit. And now, for the fun part, I'm just gonna start feeling my way through. So I'm feeling to find a couple of things. I'm feeling for quality, weight, so thickness. I'm feeling to see if it's soft enough and stretchy enough. I don't need it to be really stretchy, but I do need, for the dress that I'm working on, I need it to have a nice bit of give and a nice bit of movement. I'm seeing a lot of great sweater stuff, but again, not what I need today. I do also see a rib knit that I like, but that's not gonna be on style for what I'm looking for. A flat black knit of transitional weight. The next thing that I'll do when I find something that I do like the feeling of is I'll start to unroll it and actually hold it up against my body and look at it. So in this case, I've got a dress in mind, and so I'm literally gonna look at what that would look like if it was made into a dress for me. This one is gonna be a little too flowy. It's nice, but it's too thin. I want something slightly more structured, a little bit on the heavier side. So, though this is nice and definitely close to what I'm looking for, we haven't quite found it yet. Got some velvet here. Oh, that's another thing, shine. Do we want shine? Do we want matte? What kind of texture are we looking for? What kind of, ooh, getting closer. That's a slightly heavier one, and it's a little bit more matte. Doing this with black fabric actually is a great way to show you the difference because I think it's immediately obvious. This one is a little bit thicker. It's obviously not as shiny as the last one I held up. And again, I'm looking down at my legs and looking at how it's moving actually on my body. Sometimes they'll have mirrors around as well, and I'll go find a full-length mirror and unroll enough to cover my whole body so that I can look at it. I'm also doing that because I want to know what it looks like specifically on me. That brings me to my third point, color. Now, black is an easy one. Everyone looks great in black, but if you're shopping for color, specifically solid but also prints, you want to look for something that looks good on you. When you're shopping this way and you can see all of these different fabrics in front of you, but you can't see yourself, we forget that there are just colors that we like, that we look good in. But maybe there are some colors that we don't look as good in. This was one for me. And I like that print and I gravitate toward it. But then I remember that doesn't really look good on me though. And the hard part about making your own clothing is that it's reverse of shopping. You have to know before you try it on what it's gonna look like. Because at that point, you've already spent all of the time building it. So some of these decisions are really important because we have to make them right out the gate before we put all of that work in. So we're keeping that color in mind, and we're keeping that in mind next to our own skin. These are some of my colors. I'll even put it up to my arm here, maybe like this. Oh, I love that. But rule number one, this is not what I'm shopping for right now. Boy, does it look cute. Okay, back to black. Ponte knit, that's what I need. Yeah, okay, so a Ponte. I'm gonna have to look up exactly what that means. Heavier hand, heavier feel. Good stretch, but not overly stretchy. And the thing that I love about Ponte is that type of stretch that gives you that good structure. So let me show you. I'm gonna do a slightly flared skirt, let's call it more of like a skater style. That's gonna be the bottom of this dress. And look at how you almost can't see the outline of my knee like you could with the others. You can tell that this is a heavier feel, a heavier weight. This is great. Yeah, this is exactly what we need. Okay, we got our basic out of the way. Now it's time to move on to the colors. So I'm gonna give a little spoiler on the project. I don't know how much overlap there is between this sewing and the Star Trek community, but in my world, the overlap is complete. So this is gonna be a Star Trek dress. And the decision that I'm trying to make right now, you can see these two colors. And if you are familiar at all with Next Generation, Jean-Luc, you will know that I'm trying to choose between basically like security and engineering support or more burgundy wine color for command. So this is a really like philosophical conundrum, you know? Am I more of a Geordie, or do I actually see myself as more of like a Riker or a Jean-Luc, you know? I don't know. I don't know, it depends on the day. Today, very Geordie, feeling very Geordie. I'm looking at this mustard and I'm like, oh, that's me. That's who I am. I build things. But then when we get back to the shop later, I'll be like, no, no. That's a command hand, by the way, like when you do that. So we have to decide on a color because you can't be both, you know? You gotta go one direction. So I am liking this. I'm liking that. This is not bad because it's nice and soft. It's gonna be up against my collarbone and it's gonna be going over the more sharply curved area of my body. So that's another thing I'm thinking about. Again, I want to stretch and I want a solid color, but I don't need as much structure as I did with the Ponte because that's gonna be the bottom and this is gonna be the top. So maybe I can get away with this thinner material. That's the one. Yeah, we're definitely gonna do that. All right, we're going command. What's next? A little bit of this gold ribbon could be good. I haven't decided if I'm actually gonna do that. That would be a throwback to the original series, having this kind of like sparkly gold. They used to put this on, you know, the zigzag ribbon. It's called rickrack, literally. And they would put their ranks on with rickrack. Maybe, actually, I bet you will be able to find some still. Yeah, I would never lie to you. Look at that, rickrack, metallic, baby, rickrack. Go back and look at the original Star Trek. I swear to you, this stuff It's all over. It's on their it's on their collars, it's on their arms. It's just like, this was the quintessential futuristic rank insignia. Metallic rickrack. Perfect. Okay, so I actually have some little pips, which are the little ranks that go up here on their collar, but if I just sewed them on as buttons instead, and these are the perfect substitute, it would allow me to keep them on permanently. So, you know, if I wanted to wear my rank around on something else, I could always just move those pins. So I think I'm gonna grab these for myself as a little extra, just in case I decide to go that route. And I've got my trim, got my rank, got my fabric. Everything that I need. We're gonna go get our fabric cut, and then we're gonna get started planning this thing out. Off we go, back to the shop. Perfect. Okay, now we get to dive into the design a little bit more, which I'm really pumped about. So let's dump this stuff out. Yoink. And we've got our beautiful wine colored stretch, and then we've got our nice heavier black Ponte, which I'm very pumped about. Then a little bit of gold detailing. We'll see how I want to kind of work that into the design in a bit. Now it's time to show you what I'm actually making. Look at this little beauty. So I'm looking at the A version here. This is a deer and doe pattern. It's a French pattern company that I absolutely adore. Everything translates super well to English. They do French and English, and they are very, very sophisticated, but also nice, simple, modern, very good instructions, very good illustrations. And I like the designs because they are so relevant. I have things that I've made from them, patterns that I've bought many years ago, and I just keep making them and keep making tweaks to my body and keeping the patterns very personal, and I really love that about them. They make that very easy to do. What I like in particular about this dress is twofold for me right now. One, you see this little detail at the top. Immediately when I saw this, when it came out, it was super reminiscent of that classic next generation uniform where we're gonna have probably black here around the top, red through the center, signifying the, department, and then a black skirt. And I will probably chop that little baby down because I'd also like to do a little bit of mix-in throwback to the original Star Trek, where a lot of the women were wearing, it was the 60s and 70s, and they were wearing those nice, short, very flouncy, fun dresses. So we're gonna make it a little funky, a little bit short, a little bit sassy, but also keep somewhat of that, I don't wanna call it rigid, but definitely structured and intentional top, really signifying what we're going for there. So I'm gonna make a few changes to this, and I think I'm gonna sort of map them out first before I get cutting into this pattern. Which brings up a good point. I have sewn a lot of clothes in my life, and also I've used this pattern company and their measurements a lot. Why does that matter? Because I am comfortable making some adjustments to the pattern, especially if they're specifically just design oriented right out the gate. But if you aren't, this would be the time that you would just go ahead and cut the whole pattern out and make a sample and see how it fits. Now, with this one, you would need a sample fabric that was gonna be mimicking your final fabric. So in this case, a stretch. That would be really important. So don't go make it in like cotton muslin or something like that. A traditional sample, that ain't gonna work here. You're gonna need something that's gonna give you the idea of what the final piece will look like, and then you're gonna make your modifications from there. But for me, there are usually two tracks when you get into fashion. You're either like more of a flat pattern designer, or you're more of a draper. So actually draping on that little baby right there, the dress form, okay? Those people are incredible and wildly creative, but I'm not one of them. I'm a flat pattern designer. So for me, I'm looking at this, knowing that it's 3D, knowing that I am 3D, but translating those measurements and those design details into alterations and modifications that I'm gonna make right out the gate. So this may be your path, but if building first is your path, do it. Go do that now. That's a great idea. Okay, now I'm gonna draw out my little dress. Not my best work, but it will do. Okay, here is my poor representation of this beautiful little design over here. So now, what am I gonna start with? I know I'm gonna chop this, just like that. So I know that I want that, oops, measurement. So I'm gonna put a question mark there for me later so that I can take a little measurement from my own waist and look in the mirror and see what I think I want that to be. Next, I'm not really gonna change this upper portion. I just need to decide on colors. So let's imagine that this black, this is for sure gonna be black down here. I know that because they all wear black pants and I'm really substituting the throwback skirt for the pants. So that's good, that's decided. But what I need to decide now is, am I gonna make the whole top red or that wine color, or just up here where the collar is? Actually, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do that because with the little gold pips on the collar, ooh, that's gonna be cute. So yeah, definitely we're going black on the collar. And I know that I wanna go red on the sleeves for sure. That is definitely very classic. You know, yeah, okay. Ooh, this is fun. This is fun. Now, as I'm doing this, I wanna revisit the second reason that I wanted to try this out. I loved this because I loved that it immediately gave me that Star Trek feeling vibe. But you know what else is interesting? And maybe I didn't point this out right away. This keyhole. This keyhole is really uniquely interesting to me right now because I am working to expand my own wardrobe in a very new direction. I am actually hoping that this keyhole design here is going to be functional for future breastfeeding and pumping. And so I wanna know if this is a style that I can remake for that future use for myself. So this is gonna be a cool one. This is gonna be a great multi-function, multi-purpose, and probably multi-make for me. And that's always something that I like to invest this amount of time in. So I'm excited. Okay, I think, like I said, not my best work, but I think you get where I'm going with this. I think you can see it. And I think we're really gonna like that. The last thing that we're probably gonna do is decide on a little bit of throwback with that gold that I talked about, that kind of, we didn't go full rickrack, but we did go gold sparkle, and see if we wanna throw a little bit of that in at the end. But those kind of design components, we can wait on all of that. Let's get started now on mapping out what I'm gonna do with this. What I'm gonna do next is, I'm gonna have this printed on roll feed, just so that you know. These patterns, I believe they come tiled, where you like print out all of the pieces and you tape them together and cut them out and go for it. That, Godspeed, I believe in you. But I don't do that. If you've ever seen like big scale maps, I think they call them like plotter printers. Lots of local print stores all have that capacity where they can put a large piece of paper on and roll feed. So instead of feeding individual papers into the printer, it's feeding a roll of paper, and that allows you to print on those big scale pages. So now you've got the best of both worlds. You have the heaviness of the paper instead of the tissue that we all know and hate. And so you've got the longevity in that paper, but also you've got the convenience of the large scale that the tissue comes in, where you've got a huge piece instead of taping together little bits of what essentially becomes just confetti, especially when you start to make those pattern alterations yourself. So I'm gonna get that printed and cut out. And then I'm gonna prep up these pieces so that we can really launch into the full construction of this garment. This is a really interesting one because we haven't done this before on this channel. This is a start to finish, new era, new frontier, if you will, for our sewing progress here. So this is part one. Part two is coming, and that's when we're gonna start to get nice and serious. So go pre-wash your fabric and join me back here and we'll get started.